Good evening and welcome to the presentation on my dissertation, Reframing Alumni Relations, Young Diverse Alumni and the Impact of Affiliation, Affinity, Belonging, and Engagement on Philanthropic Support at Hispanic Serving Institutions and Non-Hispanic Serving Institutions. The reason for this study is that the demographics in higher education are rapidly changing, and our students are mostly students of color. Hispanics are now the majority, and in using the term Hispanics, I'm using the federal term Hispanics, which includes Latinos, Chicanos, Mexican Americans, and also Puerto Ricans. The investment in Hispanic serving institutions, since this study is looking at Hispanic serving institutions, is an investment in student success and equals, as well, alumni success. In addition, exploring the younger generation, generations X and Y, it looks at 72.3 million potential donors across the United States, and these donors give in very different ways than their older counterparts. As alumni or students graduate and become alumni, they enter into what is called an alumni interaction circle, and each of these items on the interaction circle represent variables within this study: affiliation, affinity, engagement, and support. Affiliation is the most passive of each of these, which occurs when a student shows up on campus. They are affiliated with us. Affinity is a positive emotion or feeling that leads to engagement, which is the physical act of connecting or doing something with the institution or the entity. We also believe, too, on our campus that belonging is equivalent to success for our students. It allows students to have a stronger persistence to degree and also develops long-term success. So belonging was also inserted as one of the variables. There are 3 research questions in this study, and without repeating over each of the variables, I will just go through them briefly. The research questions are looking at the affiliation, affinity, belonging, and engagement at the differences over time, the survey time, 2005 to 2015, and looking at ethnicity and campus designation. In looking at the very first question, we used descriptive statistics, 2x2 repeated measures ANOVA, case study, and thematic analysis. The second research question explored the same variables but looked at whether or not there was a difference by ethnicity and campus designation. In this question, I looked at the 2x2 ANOVA, case study, thematic content analysis, and of course descriptive statistics. My final research question was exploring the past and present sense of belonging and its influence on the inclination to provide philanthropic support to a person's alma mater. And to do a predictive model, I looked at multiple regression study and case study as well as thematic analysis. The participants for this study, which was a mixed methods study, was looking first at the 2005 participants that when they were seniors in the National Survey on Student Engagement, which is referred to as the NSSE. With the 3 campuses in this study, Fresno State, Sac State, and San Bernardino, there were 1,614 seniors. And because of the attrition and the difficulty in reaching some of them, the second was decided that we would explore the 2015 survey participants, which means the entire class of 2005 at Fresno State, Sac State, and San Bernardino, which netted 764 alumni participants in the quantitative study. The qualitative portion of the study was 3 open-ended questions, as well as the 7 interview participants that were randomly selected from the survey participants. These were divided by ethnicity, gender, and campus designation, and you can see the table over to the left. Exploring the demographics a little further, 51% of the participants were white, 18.3% were Hispanic, and note that this includes Puerto Rican, Latinos, and Chicanos and Mexican Americans. 7.6 were Asian or Pacific Islanders, 7.6 were Black or African American, and 5.5 were multiracial. Anything below 5% was not reported in the study, and it is important to note that this study explores only whites and Hispanics. No other ethnicities were examined for the remainder of the study. nearly 3/4 did not know the HSI designation of their campus, which we felt was really interesting when I reviewed it with a few of my colleagues. 62.8 were women. The mean age was 38.38. Half were married and had children. And 13.1% of the respondents' mothers had college degrees, while the fathers, 14.3%. So, question 1. Of exploring the affiliation, affinity, belonging, and engagement differences by survey time, ethnicity, and campus designation. And this is the repeated measures study, the repeated measures ANOVA. There were only 3 significant things to report on: engagement, belonging, and affiliation. And I will go through those since time is limited on this presentation. One of the most interesting findings was that there was a significant interaction by time, HSI designation, and ethnicity. Whites, as you can see from the graph, were consistent over time, with affiliation being actually better at an HSI. However, Hispanic affiliation, which was high at an HSI in 2005, actually went down over time, and at a non-HSI, affiliation went up. Belonging also went up, which was another unexpected result of the survey. And there was an increase in the means from 7.3 in 2005 to 8.2 in 2015. In exploring the larger sample of participants in the 2015 survey, it was kind of determined that this was a type 1 error, or at least we believe this to be a type 1 error, and this would prompt further research in the future to explore why these things happen to occur and these increased. Engagement, however, there was a significant difference in HSI designation, with an HSI having a mean of 1.94 and a non-HSI having a mean of 1.48. This actually was expected in looking at both the larger sample size as well as the smaller sample size. The engagement was higher, we believe partially due to some of the programs and the different things that were available at the HSIs and the outreach that was available as well. Research question 2 showed no significant difference in affiliation, affinity, belonging, or engagement by HSI designation by ethnicity or by HSI designation and ethnicity. Research question 3, which explored the past and present sense of belonging and its influence on the inclination to provide philanthropic support to an alma mater. This is the table, but the explanation is on the next place, which I will get to. Looking at current philanthropic support, the overall model was significant, and HSI designation and engagement are significant predictors of philanthropic support, while affiliation, affinity, and belonging are not significant predictors of current philanthropic support. Future philanthropic intent is also a significant, the model itself is significant, and HSI designation, affinity, belonging, and engagement are also significant predictors of future philanthropic support. And this is important to note because affiliation, which is just because somebody went to a particular university, does not guarantee that they will philanthropically support that university in the future. In the qualitative portion, there were 480 responses to the open-ended survey questions, and these survey questions themselves were, the first one was related to student engagement and their feelings related to connection. And then the second question was on alumni connection and those same emotions. And the third question was what factors would encourage you to contribute. So from the qualitative, this gave us a very robust look at what our alumni were feeling, how they viewed their experiences on campus. And when you put that together with the descriptive statistics that were available in the survey, if you look at affiliation, nearly 3/4 of those who participated in this survey had positive affiliation and stated that they would start all over again at the same institution. 3/4 of these same participants rated their education as good or excellent, and while they were students, 65.3% felt very connected to their institution. However, as alumni, over 50% felt no connection at all. Engagement was down significantly as alumni, and over 70% had never contacted career services or attended an alumni event. And one of the main reasons for this study and looking deeply into the qualitative themes was because over 40% felt that it was important to make a charitable contribution, and yet 66.5% had not made gifts to their alma mater, and 1/4 of them said they never would. So, examining the questions, 3 themes emerged: relationships, support and appreciation, and frustrations. And frustrations could also be seen as opportunities for future involvement. Looking at relationships, there were a number of mentions about faculty, advisors, and classmates. The connections were related to people, not to the institution itself, but to the connections that they had, the relationships, the emotional feelings that they had, mostly to faculty who were seen as being mentors, advisors, and being critical in their support in the future. Many commented that faculty made a difference in their lives and their academic experience. Relationships provided support and belonging. You see the quote here. Also, there was a need later in life for emotional connection, personal communication, and not mass mailing and solicitations. And there was also a desire to connect to current students and recent graduates. The themes also talked about support and appreciation. There was a need for ongoing support through career services, through faculty-student alumni collaborations, mentoring, and other opportunities, and also to feel a natural, authentic connection, not to a fundraiser or to someone at the Alumni Association, but instead to a classmate or former faculty member. There was a desire to feel cared for and valued, and as a point of pride for the university that they had achieved success. There was also a desire, regardless of race and ethnicity, to come back and share their stories and their cultural wealth. The frustration that was seen had to do with the feeling that they were not being supported and did not have relationships, and that money always seemed to be the first request and the first point of connection. There was also frustration due to lack of time, money, and physical proximity, but still remaining the desire to stay connected to students and recent graduates. Future research, as I had mentioned and alluded to earlier, could be a larger pool of HSIs and non-HSIs, exploring similar variables, post-baccalaureate success of Hispanics at HSIs, and exploring why students are unaware of their campus designation. Recommendations is to reframe alumni relations to start with the lifelong connections with individuals while on campus and to continue to sustain it into the early years, to change advancement practices and structures to include stronger faculty involvement, and to transition development professionals into relationship managers to put relationship support and appreciation before solicitation, and also to embrace cultural capital regardless of age, gender, race, or ethnicity. And finally, my final statement, only with advancement professionals working alongside faculty can we create culturally appropriate avenues for connection and authentic relationships where genuine engagement will lead to philanthropic support and the reinvestment in academic success. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.